Push start type of band's cool, but the tent plans. I'm back on my bender rolls for the kicks. They quick to give them 2 cents. Put my circle tight like we glued hands. Like I don't believe in new friends. Trail light, I know the ice thin. I drop the song, get a few wins. I crave the comfort in my own skin. Really, I just wanna feel the world spin. If I check, watch we double that. I get it lit. I watch.
Hey, what's up, everybody? How's it going? This your boy Frankie with We Are the Brand podcast, presented by Fabre Media, and we have another episode for you today. We have a very special guest in the studio, Aaliyah Novoa, there we go. Novoa. I don't ever say your last name.
I know, that's okay.
Yeah, so my apologies, but I'm glad you're here to correct that. We're going to just leave that segment in. Like, we're not even going to remove it because this is an authentic show. The authenticity is one of the things that I take pride in with anybody that I sit down and speak with. And nothing's scripted. It's all real. You know, even most times when we get on a podcast, we typically send out outlines, but we rarely stick to those because for me, I'm more interested in the actual conversation and having that dialogue.
Right.
But yeah, so for anybody who wants to know, we have Aaliyah. She's a dancer, choreographer, very skilled, very talented, beautiful. And I'm happy to have her here on the show today. And, you know, I felt like, I've known her for quite a few years now. We've had many conversations prior to the recording of the podcast. And she's known for kicking people while they're sitting at tables.
Like that time I kicked him.
But yeah, you know, I definitely want to jump into a little bit about who you are. If you can just, you know, let the people know what it is that you do and how long you've been doing it.
Okay, well, like you said, my name's Aaliyah. I'm 26, from Rockford, Illinois, and I'm a dancer, choreographer, creative content, content creator. And I've been dancing since I was a little girl. I've never really had technical classes. I've just always, whether I'm watching music videos or anybody that I've been inspired by, people in my community, just dancing with them as well, doing after-school programs, stuff like that. And then it's just kind of trickled over into my adult life, and it's always been something that I'm passionate about and probably would never stop doing, even when I'm in a wheelchair. So, old and in a wheelchair.
Dancing in a wheelchair.
Yes, it don't matter what it is.
I'm popping it up here.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. That's literally me. So, and I'm a mom, momming.
Shout out to the mom life.
Shout out to the moms out there. We love y'all. Mm-hmm. You are appreciated.
You are appreciated, like yes. Tupac said.
Yes, my mama's baby daddy.
Big shout out to the mama's baby daddy.
Yes.
So, yeah, obviously you've been dancing for a while now. Mm-hmm. What are some of your inspirations as far as dance? So, since a young age, you've been kind of in that space.
Right.
Something that's been inspiring you even up until now. And clearly, even if you were in a wheelchair, you're willing to still dance. So who are some of your inspirations in the dance space or even, like in music?
Right. So, of course, I've always been inspired by the icons, like the legends, Michael Jackson, Sierra, Missy Elliott, like the icons.
Right.
And then now getting into this era of being more familiar with like choreographers and not just dancers and artists, like the people really behind the scenes, because not all the times choreographers are literally in the show, like there's
right.
some that might, but for most of the time, they're the ones behind the scenes creating this masterpiece. So over time, I used to steer away from choreography, actually. Like, I always was just like, I'm just a dancer. I don't want to choreograph. And I had a lot of self-doubt back then. Like, I didn't feel like my choreo would be, great. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then just over the years, I just was like, why did I ever think that? Like, what? No, it's to each its own. Like, it's an expression. No, it's not really to say whether it's great or it's not. It's your own expression, And right. I just, over the years growing up, learning that, I started idolizing more choreographers versus just the artists that you see out there doing the performances, like the
right.
people that created that masterpiece.
Right.
And so right now, one of my biggest inspirations is Paris Goebel. Man, she's amazing. If you guys don't know who she is, she literally is the one who's been choreographing the Savage Fenty runway shows.
Right.
And she's done so much more. Like, she did J-Lo Super Bowl, like, so many different things. She's amazing. Literally amazing. So, honestly, right now, she's probably, like,
on top.
The main person for me that inspires me and moves me within dance and in the dance industry, mm-hmm. especially because she just seems so down to earth and humble, you know, even though she's won awards for dance and choreography where she's from. So to me, that's just the epitome of greatness. Like, it's great. So I definitely want to dance with her one day. Paris,
if
you ever see this,
right?
I need to be in the Savage Fenty show. Like, now.
You heard it here.
Now.
You heard it here
Like,
first.
Come on now.
Big shout out.
Man.
So, you know, having those inspirations and people to look up to, and obviously that gives direction, and that's super important because you know those type of things can help at least motivate us to find something within ourselves. And so, when you dance, what is the thing that happens in your mind when you're dancing? Like how does it make you feel? What are the thoughts that go through your head when you're dancing?
For me, honestly, it depends. It really does, because it depends on why I'm dancing in that moment. Like for me, sometimes it can be a release. It could be I'm going through something emotionally, mentally, something that's dragging me down, something that, you know, or even the other spectrum, something I'm celebrating, and something good. I'm feeling happy. I'm feeling, you know, joyous. So in those moments for me, there'll be releases, whether it's a good release or I won't even say a bad release, because it's not even a bad release because it's needed. Like, you know, it helps me work. It's therapeutic. It helps me work through my feelings. Like I'll cry when I dance, you know, because it literally helps me release any type of baggage that I'm holding on to. On top of that, if I'm doing choreography, I mean, it depends on what I'm dancing to too, you know, trying to get in tune and connect with what maybe that artist was trying to express themselves through that song, and then just trying to tap in and tune into that to, you know, express that through movement. So
so tapping into like energies and frequencies.
For sure. Honestly, because even just the beat is not even just off what they're saying. Like, honestly, sometimes I can feel the vibrations when I'm dancing with the beats, and then it's just the musicality, everything. You kind of just let it flow through you. Sometimes I'm not thinking about anything. Like sometimes my mind is blank. So it just depends.
So, like, when your mind is blank, I mean, do you dance?
Honestly, when my mind is blank, that's probably some of my best freestyles, because I'm not thinking about anything. I'm literally just listening to the music, feeling the music, and then just my body, I let my body move, you know? So sometimes those are my better, either, you know, freestyles or choreographed pieces. Right.
So with dance, right? What are some of the things that you wish to accomplish, whether it be personal, career-wise, just dreams or endeavors that you want? What are some of those things that you're currently on that path of wanting and a desire to accomplish?
A lot. So number one, I've been wanting it for a while, but now more than ever, I'm like, okay, I'm on it. I really want a studio space in Rockford. And not even just solely just for a safe space for others and for being able to teach my classes and then connect with my community, give back to my community, anything, all of those things, but also just to have a safe space and creative space for myself, because I've never really had that. Like, I've always, even my home, like, yeah, most people would be like, oh, that's your safe space. But honestly, I've never, when I make choreo in my own home, it just doesn't hit the same versus having like an actual studio space to go to and it being, you know, more, you know, your own time and having that solitude and the mirrors and just you and the music. It's a different thing when you're doing it at home in your living room on the carpet with no mirrors, you know?
Right.
Like, so.
Catching a rug burn.
Oh, for sure. You don't even know. Like, I've got rug burn on my foot right now, so.
A rug burn from the rugs.
Man,
practicing at the crib.
Yes, but honestly, to have that space there, so that way I can have that legacy back home too. Like, I can travel and get to my next destination, but I still have that back at home. And so that's just something that I've always wanted to do anyways.
Yeah.
And then after that, you know, honestly, my biggest thing is auditioning, being able to put myself out there more, building my dance clothing brand,
Yeah.
Bold Movement. BoldMovement.com, shout out.
Go ahead, let them know right there.
Bold Movement. It's a dance clothing line. So I created it during quarantine. It was just like, man, if I'm not going to do it now, when am I going to do it? Like, let me just get on it.
Let's pause on that, actually. Let's I think, you know, people have so many interesting stories, especially during the pandemic. And I never want to miss an opportunity to actually speak about that.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
You know, being a dancer, somebody who is a creative, by default, you utilize your body to show expression, and obviously it's very therapeutic for you. So, you know, during quarantine, right? During the lockdown and just all those things that were happening that we never experienced before,
Right.
as a collective of people here in the United States, what were some of the things that you had to face, or what were some of the things that you were going through, and challenges that you had to deal with?
Well, back then I was actually working at a bank, and still, of course, always trying to be an entrepreneur and, strive to, get my dancing and my choreography out there, and, trying to still book gigs and basically just entrepreneur life on the side.
Right.
Of course, there's always that fear of like, well, when it first hit, I thought, I'm like, man, this another conspiracy, and I'm somebody who still believes in conspiracy theories too, and different, I'm not probably as extreme as others, but,
Right.
I still am into that as well. But with
Right.
COVID, I just was like, man, nah, you know what I mean? And then when it hit, I was just like, whoa, this is really happening right now. This is
happening.
crazy. Like,
Right.
and then being a mom too, having to go to work, have my son, that was, definitely something to be concerned about.
Because you were considered an essential worker.
Yes, yeah,
Right.
because the bank, they not shutting down.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
At all. So just dealing with that, and then still trying to dance on the side, being a mom, being worried about that, not being able to really have the platforms to dance anymore, that was kind of hard as a dancer and entrepreneur. I know most people can probably agree with that, because now we're having to be resilient. We're having to maneuver and find different ways around it, especially as a performer, like not being able to do performances, man, like I know a lot of people that are touring right now are like, they've missed that because that was something that like at a drop of a dime, like anything can just happen and something can be taken away from you, or like, so it's crazy. So I definitely was trying to I struggled when it came to the pandemic and quarantine with my dance, because being in Rockford, it's a smaller city, and we don't have as many resources out there as like even being here in Chicago. There's so many more resources.
Right.
So like being there and trying to still teach my classes or find ways to be able to teach classes, it was a struggle for me, because I'm like, well, dang, maybe I can do Zoom and try to do like online classes, and but it was a struggle for me, like trying to find that resource or that platform to even be able to do at home online dance classes.
Right.
So honestly, it took a halt for me. Like I kind of just danced more recreational versus professional.
So did you like get discouraged at all? Did you dance less, or were you?
No, I didn't dance less, I would say. I guess I wasn't focused on the business aspect of it. I was just
Right.
more focused on just my craft and just like creating and still just trying to push content. I think that's where it switched for me. I was just like, okay, now I just need to get on my content creator-ish and just really push content, because that's really all we got right now is social media. Like, that's it. So I just transitioned, and I think it helped me, honestly, because it pushed me more to be on top of my content, because honestly, I used to slack a lot, and I'm a perfectionist and a procrastinator. So like, I'm the type of person where it's like, I'll overthink what I want to post.
Right.
Or like what I want to say, or just any little dumb
Watch
thing.
it 1,000 times over.
Yeah, literally.
And then upload it, and then before you even hit send or upload, you're still watching it a few more times.
Yes, for sure. Yeah. So like with that, it kind of just forced me to get out of that mindset and just like push content and just be on it and be like, okay, I need to go make a video tomorrow, and okay, how many videos can I make a week? And just like being on top of that still. And just really honestly working out more. Like I worked out a lot during quarantine, which goes hand in hand with dance, because you have to be physically fit. So,
Right.
I would say that there was, of course, downsides and drawbacks, but for the most part,
What were
quarantine
some of
wasn't
those
bad.
drawbacks?
For me,
Yes.
I feel like a lot of my drawbacks were more personal. I don't feel like it was really even entrepreneurial. I
Right.
mean,
So do you think that affected?
that my personal always has affected my entrepreneur life and my, whether it's like dance or my goals. And I think that is something that I've struggled with in my life, like letting that affect me, and something I've had to transition into now, being 26, being a mom, like learning and growing, is just how I react. And I know you say that a lot. I see that you say that a lot on your social media too. It's just like, you know, you can't control everything that happens to you. You can only control how you react to it, you know? And that's something that I've taken with me that has helped me a lot, to not get distracted, because I'll let my personal life distract me. And, you know, it takes a strong person to really just push through whatever they're going through and then continue going through that storm.
Right.
And being prosperous in the end. Like, that's hard to do at the end of the day. I mean, you got to do it, but, you know, for certain people, that's not something that's an easy thing to do, you know?
Right.
So I think that's the biggest thing that for me with the pandemic was a drawback for me, like letting my personal distract me and then not having the lack of resources out there, I think for sure.
So I want to definitely dive in a little more on how the personal challenges, not saying we got to get into detail about exactly what that personal is, but rather putting things out to where, you know, there might be somebody out there who can relate to you, you know,
sure.
to a certain degree, and being able to convey maybe what message helped bring things back to life for you, and what helped you build a bridge over this situation and this circumstance. Like, being able to talk about those things truly help people kind of reflect and say, hey, so and so, although she's a dancer, although she has entrepreneurial aspirations and she's moving in those directions, my personal life is something that I was, you know, having to deal with that were, you know, real issues that I had to face, and at the same time still be, you know, still persevere and be resilient and still push through towards those things that I want, right? Like, what would you say in regards to you was something that, obviously one of the things, as you mentioned, like, you can only control how you respond, right? I can't control what somebody does to me. I have no control over that. And that's major, you know, and real quickly we can talk on that and then you can answer that. But one of the major things, even for me, and this is something, and obviously it really depends on who the person is, right? Because the closer the person is to your heart, the closer the person is to having some type of more control over your emotions, the more difficult it is. But one of the things that I've truly learned, and the way that I like to express it is, you can have two people, right, from the same place, same age, right, same qualities in a sense, go through the exact same thing. And the outcome can be completely different based on how they choose to respond. It's like, you know, many stories. And I mean, I even look back, you know, in my life, like certain people I went to school with, or certain people who were in certain situations similar to mine.
Right.
And then I look at our lives 10 years later, and it's not that I am better than them as a human, but
it's
in terms,
the choices.
in terms of where we are currently in our lives and the things that are occurring and happening was all predicated on the choices that I made along the way.
Yeah.
And that's what I had control over.
Yeah.
Right? I didn't have control over all those other things at the time, especially when you're younger, right? You don't choose where you live until you get to a certain age where you can choose that. You don't choose who your parents are. You know, like, you don't, certain things you don't choose that obviously influence your life and push you in a particular direction.
Or mold you.
Right, and molds you in a way in terms of how you emotionally handle things. You know, how open and transparent you are, how you love,
how you communicate,
how you
take information in.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
I was obviously I had asked you something else, but I kind of want to pick off that. Like, how important is communication to you, and like in your life, and how you handle things?
Ooh, super important, because it's something I've really had to reflect on myself and like take a look at myself and look at and see, am I even an effective communicator? You know what I mean? Because there's been plenty of times where I haven't been, and I'm mad at this person, or I'm this and that, because I'm trying to express how I feel, but am I communicating it in a efficient and a healthy manner for it to even, you know, because it depending on how you communicate something, it can go upon deaf ears. Like, they're not going to hear anything you're saying, you know? So for me, I really had to work on that and work on how I just approach situations, how I react to situations, and how I choose. I'm very particular on how I choose to communicate how I'm feeling to somebody now. Beforehand, I would just be like, I'm saying the first thing that comes to my mind, I'm expressing how I feel right off bat, and that can sometimes
That
go
could be
sideways.
toxic,
It can
right.
go left because, you're saying the first thing that comes to your mind, and that might not always be good, Sometimes you got to really sit back and think about what you're saying, how you're saying it, and how that person might take that. Like,
Right.
and one thing that me and you used to talk about a lot too is the tonality. Like,
Right.
it matters. So for me, communication is real big because it's something within my past relationships I've really struggled with, and feeling like I'm not being heard. So it's real big to me, but bigger than communication is comprehension, because you could communicate all you want with somebody, but if they're not even comprehending what you're saying, it does not even matter.
Right. No, absolutely.
It doesn't.
Right.
Because
And
they don't get it.
Right. And also that boils down to being able to communicate it in ways that they understand.
And
But,
I've had to learn that too.
Right. And also, there are people who is just, they're one track mind.
Yeah.
Like being able to
You
convey.
could communicate it 50 billion different ways, and they're still going to take it that one way. Like,
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Because their life is a projection of their consciousness. And so therefore how they perceive life is exactly how they're going to, consume what it is that you're saying.
Oh, for sure.
Even if you mean it in a good way.
Yeah. Look, I'm sorry, because this is a
Go
great
ahead, let's talk
conversation
about
for
it.
me. Well, no, just because that resonates with me so much, because like I said, I've maneuvered and tried so many different ways to try to communicate effectively with, people I've been in relationships or just whatever, and man,
Let's dive into it. Let's talk relationships. Let's do it.
okay, well,
I think we could have a dynamic conversation about relationships
for sure.
for many reasons.
Yes.
So
well, for me, I don't like feeling like I'm being stonewalled. And what that is essentially is like when you're talking to somebody, and in this instant, your partner, and they're not paying you any mind, essentially. Like you're talking, stonewall is literally, you're talking to a wall.
Right.
There's no eye contact, they don't care about interrupting the conversation, they'll pick up their phone in the middle of the conversation, they'll walk away from you when you're talking. For me, that's a big no-no. Please don't walk away from me when I'm talking to you, because it's just a respect thing. It's just a respect level, I'm not going to do it to you. I'm going to give you eye contact. I'm going to listen to you. I'm going to allow you to speak. I'm going to speak. I'm not going to walk away or answer my phone when we're in the middle of a serious conversation at that, too. It's not even like simple conversation, So for me, it hits home, because like things that I've been through in my past or in my relationships, I've been with a lot of people that I won't necessarily say they're narcissistic. They've just seemed to have a lot of those traits and behaviors, and whether it's recognized on their behalf or not, it's there. And so I never used to be knowledgeable about those things either, like as a young girl dating, I dated at a very young age, you know what I mean? Throughout high school, having serious relationships in high school, you know what I mean? Which, sometimes that can work out. There's high school sweethearts and more power to them. But
Right.
sometimes, it doesn't always work out. And because that's, you're not even figuring yourself out then at that point in time. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like the real period in which you're really figuring yourself out is like your early 20s.
Yeah.
And even still going into your late 20s, you're like, I'm still,
I think we're always figuring it out.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, for sure. For sure.
One of the things that we talk about here, especially on the podcast, is the first 7 years of your life are the most influential years, right?
Yeah.
That's when the human mind is most vulnerable, and the time where it gets molded most by,
Right.
importantly, especially by their parents.
Right.
Those are the times that they learn how to love, how to communicate, what is right, what is wrong, right?
Right.
Those are the most important years, because what it does is it develops the subconscious mind, right? And the reason why I'm bringing that up is because a lot of what we're dealing with in our own lives and everybody out there is a result of our childhood.
Right.
And so us dealing with that that's why it's so important to have these conversations. It's so important to truly figure out ways, because sometimes, like, I had a young mother, so she taught me as best as she could, but it doesn't
Right.
mean she taught me right. Now she taught me right enough to where I'm able to still be here and I didn't die or something crazy happened. But the reality is, even she was still learning.
Right.
My mother had me at 20.
That's me.
Right.
I had my son at 23, and I'm learning as I go.
Right.
So one thing I did realize, like kind of touching on what you're saying, is like as we're growing up, we're also watching our parents grow up, and that's what we have to stop and think about too. Like, we're all human, we're all learning and growing and making mistakes. So that's also helped me with a lot of my relationships and perspectives, you know what I mean, in life and in relationships, because I didn't always have that same outlook. Like, I used to just be like, I victimized a lot. Like, I used to victimize a lot. And
Let's
be
talk
like,
about it.
and just like, you know, because growing up, I didn't have my biological father in my life. Like, I didn't meet him till I was about 11 at a DNA office. Crazy. And
Yeah, that's wild.
yeah, it's wild. And then my mother's high school boyfriend was the one who actually kind of took me in, raised me as his own. You know, I didn't even consider him a stepdad type of thing. Like, that's who I knew to be my father because he was in my life since I was a little girl.
Right.
So just with those relationships and then, you know, how those panned out, I'm not going to get into detail with it, but just how those panned out, it definitely warped my perception of men. Of men and relationships and growing as I got older, what I actually even wanted out of a man. Like, it kind of, you know, it definitely played a role into some of the relationships I got into. And sometimes I do look back and feel like, damn, you know, if my dads would have did certain things differently, would it allowed me to avoid certain situations that I got myself into, because I would have known how to maneuver through them, and I would have seen red flags, and I would have seen these signs, and I would have known, no, that's not how a man should treat you. You know what I mean? And not having that there, or having it in the way that I really needed it, I feel like, you know, put me in situations that I didn't deserve to be in. And
Right.
I victimized myself instead of taking a step back and just, like we said, like, our parents are also learning, they're also growing. It, you know, it's kind of just a part of life, and, you know, you have to unpack all that as an adult and address that trauma, or address, you know, how that affected you and how now it affects you in your adult life. Like,
Right.
it's necessary to
Right.
do.
Yeah, because a lot of those things are why we are where we're at today. And you know,
And it's necessary to be able to take accountability. Like, I can take accountability pretty well, but even through in these past couple of years, I've had to really like double down on that and be like, damn, I'm not taking enough accountability, because
Right.
I'm still getting back in this victimized mindset of, why are you doing this to me? Or why is this happening to me? Why me? And
Yeah.
I'm like, no, stop asking yourself that question,
Right.
because that's irrelevant. It's irrelevant. So it's helped me grow and be
Yeah.
able to look at things differently and not hold on to certain baggage.
so how do you view men?
Um,
Honest question, honest answer.
Honestly, not in a negative way. It's not in a negative light how I view men when it comes to non-relationships, I should say.
Right. So when it comes to relationships,
When it comes to relationships, honestly, with me getting out of my current situation and everything that I've kind of been through recently, I don't view them in a negative way. I just don't really, it's hard for me to take anybody serious right now. And I guess I won't even chalk that up to men. It's really hard for me to, you know, stop and be like, oh, okay, yeah.
are you afraid?
Yeah, most certainly, I'm afraid. And that's another reason why that's something that even right now I'm going to have to work through and heal through
Right.
and reflect on and maneuver. And taking accountability is helping me not hold on to that too. Because what I don't want to do is be one of those people that got out of a bad relationship and then basically self-sabotages.
Right. The
Because
next.
something good could come along and then you're going to self-sabotage just because you're scared. I'm not one of those. I'm not scared in that aspect of men. It's a different layer for me now because I'm a mother too now. So now I'm in the mindset of, whoa, I'm a single mom now.
Right.
When I wasn't expecting to be that. You know,
Right.
I didn't go into my pregnancy thinking that that's what I was going to be.
Right.
So, and that's not a problem. Like, it's not. It's completely fine. I'm okay with it. But I have to maneuver differently now, you know, because...
Right. It brings us challenges for
Yes,
sure.
it definitely does, because now that's what I think I mean by it's hard for me to take certain men seriously now, and that could turn into a negative thing for me that I have to make sure I watch out for, because just with being a mom, I'm just like, you know, I don't want to just really like have flings. I don't want to date around. I'm not really looking for that. So it's hard
Right.
for me to take anybody seriously right now, you know, besides myself. That's what I'm focused on. I'm trying to take myself seriously and love myself and be, you know, focus on my motherhood, focus on my craft. And because I think for me personally, I think a lot of women can relate to it as well, where I'll say we're kind of like prepped for like marriage and prepped for like finding a husband and a man. You know what I mean? Like,
And what do you mean prepped?
Disney princesses, all these different things. We're groomed and prepped to be like, oh, this dream wedding and this dream husband and the white picket fence and the family. I mean, it's really something that's more instilled in women, I feel like, than it is men, for sure.
I mean, do we want to talk about that?
I mean, we can.
We want to jump into it? Well, no, I don't disagree with you. I would say mutually, though, men from an early age are also prepped and groomed to be the provider, groomed and prepped to
There's a
be
lot
the
of pressure on
protector,
men. There's a lot of pressure on men.
You know, like be the support. And I say all these things not to devalue it, because I believe in that. Like I believe as a man, for me, in a relationship, I want to take care of my woman, right?
Of course.
I want to be her support. I want to protect her. I want her to feel like this is a safe place, right?
That can be a heavy weight to carry, though.
Right. I mean, but here's the thing: is maybe for some, for me, I don't think that's a heavy thing to burden. Like it's not, when you're truly prepped for it and you truly believe that you can, you will. And so it's just a mindset, right? So for me, like, and don't get it twisted. My mother used to be a single mother. I've experienced that. I've experienced having a stepdad. I experienced my main father not being around, and then my father being around a lot more. So I've experienced growing up in a broken home. So I've seen a lot of things, right? But one of the things that I'm grateful for is truly understanding that being a man does come with particular responsibilities by biological selection.
Yeah, and same for women.
Right, same as a woman. So like one of the things for me, at least personally, is, and I don't want to take away necessarily from where you were getting, but I think prepping women to be wives doesn't mean prepping them to not be able to be whatever they want.
Right, no, for sure.
I think that a woman having the capability of being able to do what they biologically are capable of doing, women are way better nurturers than men.
Yeah, it's maternal.
Right.
Yes.
These are biological traits that men just don't have the way that women do. Women take care of households, not necessarily I'm saying clean and do laundry, but a lot better than men do.
They hold it down,
They know how to raise children better than men do. Not saying all men, but I'm just saying like inherently, like the natural biological chemistry in a woman gives that capability. And that's why, for me personally, I think what's happening in my perspective is women are becoming a lot more, they're less focused on what their natural innate capabilities are in terms of trying to be what they didn't have. And in most times it's maybe not a father.
Right.
And most times it's a bad relationship or a bad experience with a man. So I need no man.
Yes.
Right. So
I can attest to that.
let me do everything that they do because
and more.
Because then I don't need that. And I think that what that does is,
it gives no room for a man.
Right. It gives no room for a man. And so
I'm trying to not, it's an easy place to go to, especially when you've been scarred or burned or and you've been hurt. So, just trying to make sure I don't get into that, and still having that open heart, that open mind, and being open to it. I think that's where I'm at right now. Like, I'm open to it, but I'm not looking for it. Because what I was getting at is, with my fathers not having those situations, I think it's led me to always be searching for something, whether that's love, whether that's companionship, whether that's security and feeling safe and protect, whatever that is. I've searched for it instead of allowing it to come to me and allowing myself to attract it naturally, and it being more organic to me. And that's a space now where I'm at, where that's why I say it's hard for me to take anybody serious right now. And it's not that I view men in a negative space. It's kind of just like I'm just not available in that sense of the matter, so I don't really view them at all, if that kind of makes sense. You know what I mean? And it's not in a negative way I'm saying it, because don't get me wrong, if some guy came and swept me off my feet and then stayed consistent, I would be like, oh, okay, but I'm not focused on it anymore is where the shift came in, because for me, I used to be so like, I don't want to say infatuated, but I just was like, I want a husband and I want to, I want that family and I want, because I am very family oriented. So I always
So
knew I
you
wanted
don't want that no more?
I do want that, but I'm not forcing that. I'm not searching for that. I'm
So
not.
you used to force it.
Yeah,
Right.
most certainly forcing situations that I was meant to let go of a long time ago,
Right.
because I'm searching for that or I want that
Right.
more than what the universe is telling me is for me,
Right.
So
Yeah.
just, that happy medium and just figuring it out. Honestly, that's just it for me.
Yeah.
Figuring it out.
Right. I mean, we're all definitely figuring it out, and
Yeah.
and I appreciate you, obviously being transparent and vulnerable in this moment, and respect you for that. And one of the things I did want to say as well, just like biologically, the reason why women want to feel protected has to do with biological wiring. Is that when a woman is pregnant for 9 months, they need protection. So think about like back in the day, right? Out in the wild where men had to hunt and do those different things, right? These are biological wirings that has happened for thousands of years.
Right.
And so here you have this woman pregnant. She can't protect herself.
Right.
She needs a man who can protect her, somebody who is biologically stronger and more capable of being able to do that. So I think what's happening even now is like relationships. When you look at families, because families are the backbone to any successful community, right? The more healthy families we have in the world, you look at a community, the more healthy those families are, the better those communities are.
Oh, for sure.
And having a father around, right? Having a mother around, because it takes a village to raise a child. Having those people around and being able to be in a union of growth, right? Because it's about momentum. It's about being able to be among people where you share particular energies that's directed towards a certain goal. And hopefully that goal is, to continue that success and that legacy, because that's what a legacy is, right? And those are the things that we try to create. If you look at some of the greatest families in the world, or I wouldn't even say the greatest families in the world, but the most successful families in the world, that's one of the things that they did. They took that family structure very seriously, right? And they protected it, and they made sure to grow it within the family, right? And I think what's happening a lot now, especially in the United States, is the breaking up of the home, and like deliberately, right? So I'm not even, necessarily saying like relationships that didn't work out, but I mean like an actual deliberate attack on how the structure of a family should operate in order for it to be fully successful within a home and in an environment that's conducive for a child to actually grow into the best possible person, human being that it could possibly be.
Oh, for sure.
You know what I mean? So, and I feel like that's like a topic for a whole nother podcast, because we're definitely going back and forth, about certain things, because so many of these topics could be like broken down into 10 different ways.
Oh, for sure.
So, okay. So obviously, I asked you, how you view men. What do you want in a man?
So I've had to take time to honestly learn my love languages, because I think that was a big problem for me too. Like I didn't know what I wanted from a man. So I was just out here. A lot of us are out here blindly dating and blindly searching for love, not even really knowing what it is we want in a partner. So for me, I'm a very affectionate person. So one of my love languages is physical touch. Like, it doesn't even have to be sexual, just intimacy. Like I want intimacy. If we're sitting on the couch, I don't want you to be all the way on the other side of the couch. Like, come sit your ass next to me. The hell? So, and just like, I want certain things like without having to ask. Like a lot of times in like past relationships, like simple stuff like a foot rub. Like I used to be a waitress. So, and like when I was pregnant, I waitressed my whole pregnancy. That shit is hard as hell, very tiring on the body. And just like wanting a foot rub, like something as simple as that.
But did you have bunions though?
No, I don't. I do have a bunion.
No, I'm just.
I do.
I'm just. You don't gotta. You didn't have to tell the people.
Dancer problems. Look, no, that's dance. That's dance life.
Joking.
Because what's a passion without an adversity? Because
ooh, say that again.
What's a passion without an adversity? Because I have a bunion, and that shit makes it extremely difficult to continue dancing. And I have to sit here and be like, damn, am I gonna have to have surgery eventually, or am I just gonna have to keep dancing through fucking pain? Because it hurts. I mean. Yeah, I have a bunion. Okay, anyways, back to the topic that we were talking about. Just busting me out. And,
I did not bust you out.
Don't look at my right foot.
I did not. Listen, you're giving everybody all the tea. There is nothing hidden. So if you guys
Hey,
ever...
I mean, I don't care. Look, people would be like, you talk too much. You tell me. I don't care. It's my life. What can they tell me about me?
Right.
I can tell you about me.
Right.
And I'm going to. That's
Right.
fine. But yeah, no. So for me, it's like I don't want somebody to be with me out of obligation, number one, because a lot of times I've felt like that in my past, where like you were with me just out of obligation. My most recent, relationship, that's for sure a problem that I had, where I felt like you would only do something because you knew that's what I wanted, not because you genuinely yourself wanted to do that. And I don't.
Well, let's pause real quick. Let's pause on that. Like,
what?
well, no, I feel like that should be slightly dissected, because you said you rather them do it because they want to versus them doing it because they know you want to.
And that doesn't go for everything. It depends,
Because that's the thing, especially when it comes to women, though.
Because, it can be very vague and it can be all over the place. You never know, and we're not mind readers. I get that.
Right.
I get that, okay? But, I don't know. I guess for me, I just want somebody, I should not say, like, they want to do it not out of obligation because they want to. I guess I should just say, like, more considerate. Like, I don't have to always ask you to do something sweet. Like, you're just considerate enough yourself to just be like, damn, she had a hard day today. Like, let me rub her foot, and her not even ask me to do it. Because guess what? I'm not asking for anything that I don't give myself. So that's why I say that, because I'm definitely been the type of person in a relationship where
you express what you like.
but no, I was going to say, like, 9 out of 10, a lot of times I don't have to be asked to do certain things, because it's like a natural thing for me in a relationship. I'm a very affectionate person, and just I'm gonna go above and beyond type of person. I'm a very like leave it all on the table, heart on my sleeve, like yeah. So for me, I naturally just do those things. I think naturally it's something that I would like, and I don't do it because I want you to do it for me. I just naturally I'm like, oh, I'm gonna just give me your foot.
So you like acts of service?
Yeah, acts of service, affection, And
so sometimes that's a difficult thing for some people, even men, particularly is.
Well, I feel like some men feel like acts of service mean like gifts.
Well,
I mean, it can be. Don't get me wrong.
I mean, technically it's different, but if they thought that, they're just wrong, because gifts.
Well,
because a gift is a gift.
I mean, it is, but some men do think that acts of service mean just like. They're talking about materialistic things like, oh, you buy me this. No.
Yeah, that's not acts of service.
It's not. But I'm telling you, there's men out there that think that.
Right. So men out there that think that
that's not it.
Acts of service is not gifts. Gifts is its own love language. Acts of service would be like taking the trash
dishes
out, doing the dishes, rubbing the feet,
yes.
doing the laundry, folding the clothes, the bubble bath with some roses on the floor and some candles.
Clipping the baby's nails, so I don't got to be the only one
Clipping the baby's
doing
nails so the baby ain't scratching his face.
or got dirt under him. You never know, because
Right.
my kid likes to play in dirt.
Right. Shout out to all the mothers that know what that's like, because I do not.
Yeah, so I mean, for me, that's I want somebody who's going to make me feel safe. I think for me, that is probably the forefront of a lot of things for me when it comes to another relationship, is just feeling safe, because I haven't really felt like that from a lot of men.
And the terms of safe is just like emotionally,
and mentally safe with you, not physically. Like,
right.
I mean, of
That
course,
too,
that's
yeah.
a given. Like,
right. He should be able to protect you.
But then again, like, I got a pew pew, so I'm, I just. My uncle.
What did you just do?
A pew pew. My uncle's real, so he made sure he's like, you're a single woman, you live alone, or you're a woman in general. You need to be strict.
You need a pew pew.
A pew pew.
If it sounds like that, it's probably not going to stop them from coming inside.
It definitely doesn't sound like that. But.
Right. Pew pew.
No, but so that's of course always a given. But for me, it's more mental and physical. I mean, mental and emotional with me, because I've had so many instances where I've like come to express my feelings and come to express my feelings and feel like not judged, but just like you're not hearing me. Oh Lord, y'all.
You okay?
Mm-hmm.
A little water break.
Yeah, a little water break was needed. Otherwise, I'm gonna have a whole I'm gonna aspirate. I'm gonna have a whole cough attack on you.
Oh yeah, don't have a cough attack on us. Gonna take a brief water intermission.
No, but yeah, so like the biggest thing for me is just, wanting to be able to know that I can come to you about anything and not feel like it's going to turn into an argument. Because for me, that's a lot of stuff that I dealt with. And that's a part of feeling emotionally and mentally safe with somebody, is being able to come to them about anything, talk to them about how you feel or how even they've made you feel, and not feel like you're walking on eggshells or feel like, oh my God, this is about to turn into an argument, even though I'm not intentionally going into this wanting it to be an argument. Like, I just want to tell them how I feel, So for me, I think that's one of the biggest things.
Right. So how important, and by the way, when you talk, if you can get closer to the mic, outside your coughs.
Right. I'm trying not to cough all on your mic.
Thank you. I appreciate it. For the next person. You're gonna be like, what the hell is this? So yeah, I heard you say, like, being able to express yourself and how you feel, right? Mm-hmm. Do you believe that there's a time for everything?
Yes, and I've had to learn that as well. And I still have to work on that because in the heat of the moment, like, say it's like something that you're addressing that, made you upset or mad, There's been moments where I probably could have waited to probably address the situation, but I'm like, oh no, I'm about to address this right now. And I know that's something that's probably been a problem for me, that I definitely know my ex was like, I don't like when you do that, blah, blah, blah. You couldn't wait till blah, blah, blah. But for me, it's like, it depends, because why am I going to wait to address something with you? I have to let that sit on my heart for however long for your convenience. So
check this out. Here's a perspective. Talking about for your convenience. Well, think about it. If you do address it in that way, the outcome that you're getting isn't going to be convenient for you.
Yeah.
So the real question is the temperature in the room conducive to actually have a conversation to where now they're in a better situation mentally, emotionally, whatever, to actually have that conversation. Because we have to understand something. If I'm hurt, it has nothing to do with the other person. It has everything to do with me. Mm-hmm. I have to agree, and I'm not saying they didn't do anything hurtful.
Right.
But let's just be clear.
Right.
Right. But I can say I can say something very absurd to you, and you'd be like, haha, that's funny. And I could say something very absurd to her, and she'd be like, yo, that's very disrespectful.
Right.
I ain't feeling that. Right. And so what happened there? For you, you're like, it don't mean nothing to me. Like I'm not taking it to heart. I'm not taking it personal. Mm-hmm. Right. I'm not putting myself in a position to where I'm going to allow myself to be hurt from it. Right. But that person off rip is like, and obviously there's parameters and guidelines to certain things. But that person, for example, got triggered right away. And so they accepted that hurt. Here's the reality. Like I said, it's not that person's not doing something hurtful, but I have to come into agreement with what you did to even feel hurtful within myself.
Right.
I have to be like, yep, that hurt me. Like, I have to agree. And then I'm hurt.
Right.
But I still, guess who I got to still deal with? Myself. Right. And so I think one of the things that are very important, if we can, as people, begin to realize that I may feel a particular way and it's hot and heavy right now. I may just want to snap. And it has nothing to do with the convenience of them, and it has everything to do with me protecting me.
Yeah. I've had to learn that.
Because how much more worse is it that not only can I not wait to have a conversation in an environment that I know is going to have a better outcome, than doing it now in the moment in which I am pretty upset, right? And then now the outcome is only going to be worse, because remember, we're exchanging energy.
Yeah, for sure.
And so although you can act calm and collective here,
you're inside.
I feel all of that.
Oh my gosh. The fact that you just said that just hit home. It did.
Let's talk about it.
Well, just because I've literally just had moments like that recently, where I've literally, like you said, it hasn't been conducive, and I still chose to have that conversation then, and I've still been like, I'm going to approach it in like a calm and like, I got this, you know, like
Right.
speak in a calm tone, not raise my voice, not like try to lead it to an argument, be careful with my word selection, and it still don't turn out right because internally I'm still feeling whatever I'm feeling, you know what I
Right.
mean? And man,
Well,
you did give me some perspective there, some insight
right.
there.
I think it's healthy.
It
Like that,
is.
like because really, here's the thing.
The angry side of me was viewing it as convenience for them to talk about it later.
Right. And really it's not. It's actually better for you to talk about it
Right,
later. And
right.
also, you know, the thing about life sometimes is some things really aren't as big as we make them seem.
Yeah.
Like if we were to say, okay, let's think about that situation and let's remove that situation, how would life be? Okay, it'd probably be good. That's how unimportant that is.
Right.
Right? Now, don't get, like I said, obviously, as a disclaimer, there are certain things in relationships where certain things shouldn't be allowed. And you also have to have your boundaries and things that can be crossed. Those are
Yeah.
those are covenants you made within yourself.
Exactly. That you have to stand upon.
Right, because that's what you believe, and you should be true to what you believe. But I believe there's fundamentals within a relationship. If you act in a certain way, you're gonna get the best outcome. Like I was in a relationship, and there was this moment where she acted in a particular way, and it was in front of people, right? And it was around my people, and so how that person was acting, how she was acting, I felt disrespected. And the thing about men is, as soon as a man feels disrespected, and anybody, but it's just heavily, especially with men.
Oh, for sure.
You know, as soon as a man feels disrespected,
Shut off.
it's like it don't matter what you say after this. Like you could literally be saying, you could have brought me whatever you thought you were gonna bring me. Like actually, I just don't even want to talk to you no more. Like I don't care how sweet you're acting right now. Like
Women need that more. Women need that.
right, I the disrespect though, like and then it cuts it off. So you know what I'm getting to is, you know, in that space, like I had a moment where I felt disrespected, but I remembered what we're talking about here. And I'm like, that's what I asked myself. I said, how do I get the best outcome? I was having a conversation with myself. I'm like, how do I get the best outcome out of the situation, knowing I feel entitled to how I feel, right? Because anybody is like if I put this before somebody, would be like, yeah, she disrespected you.
Yeah.
And I held myself back and I'm like, what's the outcome I truly want from this? And I thought about it and I'm like, well, because I talked to myself. It's like two people talking. And I'm like,
I do it too.
yeah, it's so
They
important.
say geniuses do it.
All the time.
Okay.
All the time. And so I told myself, I was like, well, then you have to operate like this. You got to act in this particular way. And you have to accept that. Now, I had to come in agreement with it. I couldn't fake it. I had to come into agreement with it. And I was like, all right, bet. And that whole time, I operated in a way that the outcome that I wanted was the outcome I got. And because she saw how I acted, she came to a realization and recognized for herself where she was wrong. And I didn't have to tell her to say sorry. All I did was, that happened. I handled myself in a way that I knew what the outcome I needed in order for that to happen. And then the following day, I had the conversation. When it was all said and done, slept on, boom. Now I can conduct myself in a way that's no longer attached to the moment that created that emotion, but now I'm operating from a place that truly wants the best outcome for the both of us.
Yes. Yes. I feel like you put into words the the epiphany and the realization that I've been going through literally in this current phase of my life right now. So preach.
But yeah, so
Holding on to the attachments of those emotions and how people make you feel is serious, man, because I think that's a lot of why I've struggled with, I won't say I've struggled with this transition, but why the moments where it has been harder for me, why it's been harder for me, because I've been so attached to my emotions, to the situation and to that person, instead of, like you said, maneuvering in a different way that's going to get you the outcome that you're actually wanting. And I didn't want to accept that.
Yeah.
Like I didn't. And that's
It's
a big
challenging.
thing. It's very
Right.
challenging. Like you're strong to do that, to walk away from something that you genuinely actually didn't necessarily want to, but it's not conducive for you and it's not the outcome that you're actually looking for, so you have to.
Right. And a lot of that comes with, and obviously I do that a lot more now than in my younger years. And then obviously, I would say this was a major challenge because it was somebody who was dear to my heart. Right.
Yeah.
So, one of the things that I've realized is that we have to begin to understand the psychology of a person by understanding even ourselves. And so, for the past, I would say since around like 19 is when it really, really started for me. So I feel like I started at an early age when it came to perspectives of internal psychology and how it affects our everyday life and then our interactions with people. And it's just always intrigued me when it came to not what somebody did, but why they did it. And that's always the thing I want to find out. That's the thing I want to know. And when you begin to understand how the human brain works and see patterns and learn people's triggers, and you're able to find that out by doing that to yourself, is like, what are my triggers, right? Because like I said before, I could have said something to you, everything was cool. I could have said something to her, boom. Now she's focused on what I said rather than focused on the trigger. Something triggered in her that now made her react in a particular way, in a particular manner, right? Because somebody else could say something to me that I don't even know, and it's just this fool crazy. Like, I'm not worried about him.
Right.
But then somebody who what happened?
I said, I've seen you do it.
What?
Be like, this man, going somewhere.
Yeah. One of those things that I know for a fact is that when we begin to truly understand how we operate as human beings, and if we're true to that, being able to operate among other people, you're going to get the best outcome that you could possibly get. Because like on our podcast yesterday, we were talking about the worlds we live in. This is my world. That is your world. Both our worlds are currently in a cohesive space. We are currently in each other's worlds, right? You're allowing your world you live in,
right,
for me to be in it under particular orders of operations and systems. So that way you can get the best outcome in your world in this moment. And the same with me. And so if I am the king of this kingdom, then that means I need to operate in a way that's going to make this world, my world, work best. And that may not be cussing out that person.
right,
And that may be not taking that personal. And that just might be not talking about this right now. Why? Because this is my world and I'm responsible for it. It's not my world, so F you because it's my world. And that's the opposite.
right.
It's the opposite simply because it doesn't create order. It creates chaos. Yeah, no, it's real. It's real. But yeah, you know how long we've been talking already?
With us, it's always like...
It's been an hour already. Hour and 2 minutes.
Be feeling like 20 minutes.
Right. It's hot in here, huh?
I haven't been dripping sweat. Like, you don't know
like I said before we recorded, armpits on baptized. But yeah, I feel like we definitely covered quite a few things. I mean, we could probably chop this up in a few different things and it'd be like, man, this podcast is about this. No, this podcast is about that. Like, we started talking about dancing and everything.
Look,
now look where we ended up.
That's me as a communicator and a talker
Right.
anyways. Like, I'll veer off and then come back. I can't even help it. Because there's like, it could be one word. There'd be one thing that'll be like, oh, dang.
Right.
This made me think of this whole
Right.
different topic that kind of relates or not even, but
Yeah.
just made me think of this topic and here I'm going.
Yeah, I feel like everything that we've discussed at the end of the day is important because despite your brand, despite the fact that, having, you're in that entrepreneurial space and that creative space as a dancer, life happens. These things are real, no matter what looks like from the outside perspective or what it might appear to be. We're all facing particular challenges and struggles.
Yes.
On a day-to-day basis, some more than others. But I think when I say some more than others, it's really how people deal with it that feels like some more than others, because the same thing can happen to me and happen to you. But for me, it's like, all right, water on my back, off my back. But for you, it's like, oh, I'm in a ditch now.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's all about how I perceive life to be, and it's all about how I choose to respond. And I think that that's what truly makes, people successful in life, no matter what it is who can I become in the midst of it all, and what can I get out of it? Because, that right there is the ultimate thing. That's the real reward. That's the thing that we're able to continually take with us, along this life. And those are the things that we can give to people and share with people in our world. Those are the things that sculpt our world that we live in on a day-to-day basis. They're the reason why we have certain friends. They're the reason why we take certain jobs. They're the reason why, we believe and do what we do. And that's why it's just super important that we just continue to seek truth, to seek, wisdom and understanding. In all things gain understanding. Because that's going to put you in a place to get the most out of your life. Right? To get the best out of your life. And then by natural default, people will then be in your world because you're conducting order and structure in your world to have to operate under a system that's based upon what I just said. Now, if they are, so by natural default, if they're not able to operate among those structural processes, they're going to have to then be, they're just going to, they're going to find themselves out because they can't adapt to the world you're creating. So create the world you want, and the people that are supposed to be in it will adapt to it, and you're going to get the best outcome you want in life. You feel me?
Yes.
You feel me?
Thank you. Thank you so much. There's so much I could take from this and go and immediately apply. Like, it was definitely a moment for me that gave me some even more self-reflection on myself, because I've been doing good with my transition. I feel like I've handled my transition very well, with transitioning into single motherhood, living alone. First time ever as a woman. Women, one thing I will say, if you have never lived alone, please live alone. At least just for a little in your life.
With a pew pew.
I think it's necessary. I feel like it's necessary for I won't even just say women. Everybody in general, I feel like, should at least for a moment in their life see what it's like to live by yourself.
I love it.
Yeah. I mean, that's how you truly learn yourself. I feel like, how are you going to really learn yourself if you're not by yourself eventually in life? So I feel like,
and if you're not living by yourself, find a space.
Ways to do that.
Right, absolutely.
Find safe spaces of solitude to be able to do that for yourself,
Right.
But just personally, what I've been through in relationships, I've always been speaking to the women that have always been in a relationship or hopped from relationship to relationship or whatever, and not given them that time of solitude to really figure out why that relationship failed, or what I could have changed, or how I reacted, or what I truly want. Those different things, I think that's very necessary for a person to live on their own for those reasons.
Right.
So I feel like that's the current phase I'm in, and I'm actually very appreciative of it, and I'm super excited to see.
I'm excited for you.
Where it goes right now, because I feel like this is the healthiest space I've been in a while.
And that's good.
And like I said, this was a moment for me that just gave me even more things to reflect on, and to really look at myself and check, and being able to move forward, and being able to be like, dang, I can take that from this podcast and apply that now.
That's what's up.
Yeah.
And I believe in you, and I know that you have a kind, beautiful spirit to you.
Well, thank you. I try. I have my moments where it's I be feeling moments where it'll try to take me from that. But like you said, life is about your choices, and I'll be like, yeah, that's just not in me. That's just not my spirit.
Right.
I do try my best to react in positive manners for the most part. I have my moments.
Yeah.
Yeah,
no
I'm
doubt.
human, but, and I'm a Gemini. I can get a little crazy.
Gemini.
But for the most part, I think, I've been handling everything pretty well, and I'm excited.
Well, I'm excited for you, and I appreciate you, spending time and coming out here. And real quickly, too, something came to my mind when you were talking to the ladies, and it's to anybody in general. Say you get out of a relationship, right? And you get to a realization, or you come to a point of realization where there are internal things that you need to change for yourself, right?
Yeah.
Don't think that because you're changing and you've realized that you're able to convince that person you were with that they also need to change. These are things we need to come to on our own.
Yeah.
Him and her.
Yeah. Oh,
They need to come to that, because what happens is now like, oh, I've changed and this is better now, depending on what side you're on. So like, that means we can do this again, but that person did nothing to grow or to change themselves. And that's in the cases of when things get kind of toxic and a little crazy. That's a different story. Right. Not everybody has that story, you know, where it's like, okay, it wasn't toxic, just some things just didn't work out.
Right.
But then maybe they come back together and it'll work then. But it's like when it gets toxic and some things occur, you know, my advice is don't go back to toxic relationships. Because there's a layer of history there that no matter how much you try to oversee it, it exists. Now, it depends on how deep that is, and what that toxic relationship looked like, but you can't resurrect a relationship. You can't live in the past. You can't put yourself in a place where what was and why me and maybe this and those were great moments. Those are great moments. Cherish those moments.
And then go on to the next chapter.
And continue on and understand that there is so much beauty to still be seen and to unfold. And this world that you're creating is going to be conducive one day for somebody else to actually exist in that world
with you.
And you can create that world together and really grow it under those particular boundaries and structures that you've set together. And now you have a real kingdom. Now you have a real place to build family, to build success. You have that foundation, and things are now rooted deeply. So now you can get the best and have a stronger outcome.
None of my relationships have had a foundation. And that's why it was never going to work out anyways.
Right.
So.
Well, now you know.
Yeah, now I know.
For yourself.
Man. If I could tell my younger self.
What would you tell her?
All of this,
all of that,
all of it,
all of that.
No, I mean, I feel like I would not be who I was if I didn't experience the things that I experienced anyway.
Of course.
So it's not even a matter of like, oh, tell your younger self this, so like it doesn't happen in the future. It just really just like being more aware and more in tune with myself.
It's like I tell people, I'm like, you know, if there's a line of people putting their hand on the stove and they're getting burned, do I got to be the sixth person to touch the stove to get burned? I do not. I know if I put my hand on the stove, I'm getting burned. That's where true guidance allows us not to be the sixth person. Now, yeah, we had to go through that. Now we know it burns. But if we had the right guidance and the right mindset and the right direction,
right, we wouldn't have
need to even had to do that, and still would have learned, but through wisdom and through that understanding
versus experience.
Right. And your experience now is what it is to not. So I mean, we can. That's a whole
right. Like
that's a whole other conversation. But to conclude the podcast, like I was saying, because we'll definitely probably have like 10 more closings at this point. But I just want to thank you for taking your time, being transparent, being open, being willing. Letting people know, how you really feel, what you've come from, and, what you've overcome and what you're going through. I think that's empowering to somebody, and I know it will be.
It's empowering to me. That's why I do it.
Yeah.
I feel, for real, people have been like, oh, like I said, why are you so open? It's empowering.
Right.
Me. So.
No, 100%. Well, before we get off, go ahead and let the people know where they can follow you and get in touch with you.
So basically all my handles are at the Aaliyah Novoa. So that's at TheAaliyahNovoa.
Okay. That's IG, all handles.
IG, Twitter, Facebook, it's Aaliyah Novoa.
Right.
Yeah, IG and Twitter, those are my main ones. So.
Okay. Well, you guys heard it. If you want to follow her, we'll make sure we put that into the description. And before we close out, listen, make sure if you've not subscribed yet to make sure you do subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're on all podcast platforms, anywhere where you can stream podcasts. We are there. We exist. We put a lot of snippets and stuff out on social media. Instagram is definitely a heavy one. We're on all platforms, Twitter, you name it, TikTok, we'll be there. And if you guys know anybody who you feel would be great to be on the show, let me know. Or if there's any topics of discussions you feel that we should have, throw it in the comments. So until then, you guys take care. Peace.